Right, a slightly different carpool today, as you might have seen. We have a certain 13-time Grand Prix winner, David Coulthard, who's going to help me out on taking some passengers around the circuit. DC, are you all set? Come and have a seat. I should tell you at this stage. I mean,
just gonna do a quick photo. You ready? Excellent. Done.
Pull the door to me. Get the heating on. Excellent. Right, we've got a trailer full of people. There's no one out. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
This is a bit random.
It's totally random, isn't it? So usually these carpools are done around the circuit and off onto the main roads, but on event.
Yeah.
So we need to look out for stops and have benches near them.
Is that my responsibility? So you do the driving.
Okay. Yeah.
Should I do the stops?
You do the stops.
I was pretty good in my career at stopping.
Great. Okay.
The going bit was the difficult.
This is the difficult bit.
Now I always knew you were a man of stature and therefore would have big things.
This is not mine.
This is a big thing.
This is not mine. 10.5 tons. So, DC, well, in between stops, we should talk about your career and what you're doing here this weekend and everything like that. So, what I quite like to do is kind of go back to when you were first warm enough.
I'm just getting the heat turned up. Yeah, a bit more heat, please, would be nice.
There we go.
But this modern track thing
it's amazing, isn't it? Like £200,000 worth this.
What?
Yeah, it's cheaper than an F1 car.
That's a good racing season.
Yeah, I know. The 2 rear tyres are like £5 grand.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You do have a bit of responsibility. You've got a few passengers on board.
So let's rewind to Williams. And you were doing loads of testing. You come to your race of Formula 3000, and suddenly you were working with Senna, Prost, Mansell.
Yeah,
that must have been amazing, wasn't it?
Well, it was. I remember sitting in the garage in Imola, actually, when I was testing when Prost was part of the Williams team, and looking over. He was always someone, Mansell, of course, I admired greatly when I was a young driver, but somehow Prost was someone that I not related to, but aspire to in terms of his consistency and smoothness behind the wheel. And I remember looking over and thinking, I don't want this moment to end. Life cannot be any better than this. So if I had never progressed from being a test driver, I still would have been fulfilled, because I never truly believed that that I could come from a small village in Scotland and have a professional career as a Grand Prix driver, never mind for 15 seasons. Of course, I believed in the opportunity when I was on track, and I'd always tried to do my best. But the fact that I was able to be paid to do it quite happily for nothing was a real gift.
Yeah, well, it's odd. When did you get that belief then? Because if you were saying then that you still didn't believe that you were kind of going to be a Grand Prix driver, let alone Grand Prix winner.
Yeah.
Did that come after the first Grand Prix win, or when you were on the grids in '94?
I guess when Frank Williams was brave enough to put me in the car when there was other more qualified drivers and give me the opportunity, it was something that really cemented the reality of a Grand Prix car is just a car. So I read with interest recently an interview with Fernando Alonso, where he was talking about karting being the most pure form of racing, and to win at the highest level in karting, it is more difficult in his mind's eye than to do it at the highest level of car racing. And I guess it's more comparable, the machinery is more similar, of course. And I think that once you get in there and realise that a Formula 1 car is just a very fast vehicle, an extension of your karting career, if you like, then it makes you realise that anything's possible. Yeah.
I should mention at this point, my seat has wonderful air suspension.
Mine doesn't.
Yours doesn't.
I'm getting literally pile driven from below.
Would you like to ask me what any of these switches do?
They look like...
I have no idea.
They look actually like something that would be in some sort of pervert bondage case.
I have... Is this a stop? What do we think?
Yeah, actually, I failed in my one responsibility. Let me just...
on? No?
Let me... How do you open the door?
No?
Are you looking for the lift? Are you jumping on? Are you okay?
Okay. Yeah. Right. Onwards.
Yeah.
I think.
Didn't want to lift.
Yeah. So when you met Senna and you met Mansell, what were they like? Were they sort of look down on you at all as a...
Who's got right away? This guy or you?
think it's me, really. I don't know what they're doing. There's also a steward in the way.
How far are we going on?
Just getting around the track.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So we had no point going to the car park?
No. Although if we go now, I'll have to take you back.
Oh, I don't want to be doing that.
So, what was it like when you what were they like to you? Were they sort of interested in what you had to say, or as the test drive, or was it?
Yep. What stands out, I remember when Ayrton joined the team, the first test was in Estoril, and he was there to test a couple of days, and I was on standby should he not want to go out on track, and then eventually I was meant to continue the testing. And on the third day, I come into the track, and he's there already, so I thought, okay, he must be wanting to do another day's testing. But in actual fact, he come in and wanted to listen on the headset to my feedback, to hear what I was describing the car, to listen to how I spoke to the engineers. Basically, he wanted to confirm that now he signed a contract with Williams, he wanted to know he could trust the test driver to basically carry out the work that was necessary. And thankfully, he did endorse the fact that I gave reasonable feedback. And Frank subsequently told me, as did his manager Julian Jacobi, that he had said that he thought I was someone that had some potential for the future.
Yeah.
You almost put me winch me.
Is anyone want to get off here? No, it's another stop. Oh, someone getting on. At least there we go. There we go. Excellent. Right, we've actually
picked up someone.
There we go. Let me sit down. There we go. Right, now we're off again. Okay. Excellent. So what was? So you said that you admired Prost.
Yeah.
Was he just as you had imagined him in terms of his approach? And
yeah, very, very meticulous. Didn't do a lot of laps in testing. He would go out, do 3 laps, come in, get out to the car, have an espresso, talk to the engineer, get back in the car half an hour later. You can assume he'll move if it looks like we're going to hit him. Yeah. So he didn't do a lot of laps, but what he did do, he really sort of tried to make sure they counted.
Yeah.
Nigel was pretty motivated to go out early in the morning, a few new sets of tyres, do a lap time, and then disappear off to the golf course. So, and he was more than capable of doing that. Excuse me. So they all had their own unique personalities, and Senna was, of course, an incredible mix of Prost and Mansell. You had all of the sort of physical aggression of a Mansell and the finesse of a Prost, and I was incredibly lucky to experience those 3 guys in particular. And then if you look at the rest of my journey, against Kimi and Mika and Damon, they've all been champions, they've all been drivers, so it's quite a fulfilling journey. This is clearly
this is the pinnacle.
The pinnacle. To be an attractor with you. If the cameras weren't rolling, then I would be. I'd be sitting on your lap. That's such a comfy looking seat.
It is really comfy. It's also, it worries me that they've left the plastic on, is it?
Well,
that's sort of white clean.
I'm overexcited.
So, is this the weirdest interview you've ever done?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Excellent.
Tick that box,
Great. We're serving a purpose there. It might be a weird interview.
No, this is good. We are, just here in the community.
And we're warm. And you can watch the racing.
Great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really good. I wish it was as dry as that when I was out earlier in the Gullwing, because I sort of was struggling for grip a little bit.
So talk me through what you're doing here this weekend, because I seem to remember watching an interview with you after an Austin race.
Yeah.
And you saying, I never want to race again.
Yeah, I've never been drawn to want to do the competition side of all of what's available at Goodwood. I've always been drawn to Goodwood as a fan of the sport, and looking at the cars, hanging around with racing people, being at a race circuit. This is my happy place, and I enjoy that. But I don't have the passion to drive the classics. And if you don't have the passion, you shouldn't do it. You know? And I admire those that do it, they test, they do it professionally, and they're very good at it. That said, Charles, Lord March as he was at that time, the Earl as he is now, was very persuasive with the Austin Healey that they're all the same, it's just a bit of fun, it's slow. I said, okay. But
was that 835?
Yes, Austin 835. Yeah. And so on that basis, he is a very persuasive man, and I took part in that very wet race, sat on the grid as my window wiper stopped working. So not only could I not see, I had no idea that really the car I was driving. The advice I got before going on track was, if you go on the grass, don't turn the steering, otherwise you'll roll. You know, under the Austin is very...
Right, Rolly.
Yeah, Rolly. So...
That's like all those other cars you spent so many years driving.
Yeah. So it did that, and anyway, fast forward to this point where I've always, been a great admirer of Mercedes. Gullwing's my favourite car. I have an old 1971 280 SL, which I've had since '95. So Mercedes is all the German marques. There's so many great cars out there, but I've always been drawn towards Mercedes. Lucky enough to have a relationship with them. IWC were starting their racing team, and they said, "Would you like to drive the Gullwing at Goodwood?" And at first I thought it was a demonstration. I was like, absolutely, I'd love to do that. And then they said it will be in the Salvadori Cup. And I went, oh, I might have, kind of overcommitted here. But two grassy experiences and one gravel run in the practice session, but got through it, and hopefully it'll be dry tomorrow. And, it's not the fastest car in the field. It's certainly not being driven as quickly as it might be able to go in my hands, but it's.
If you're coming off onto the grass, then you're certainly pushing it.
Yeah, it has a tendency to lock the front axle when you brake. So I've decided a strategy of not braking, just using the gearbox.
This is absolutely cool, guys. Oh, yeah, there we go. So, but what's Goodwood like as a circuit to drive? It's quick, isn't it? And actually quite technical.
Challenging. It is a challenging track. This is one of the more difficult tracks to drive. Not many corners, but really to feel comfortable in Goodwood, I'm not sure the guys that have done 100 races here ever really truly feel comfortable. It's a little bit like the old Silverstone, high speed, really challenging to.
Warm now.
Yeah, we're one of the few that.
The guys in the back are going to be freezing.
Well, how much is this? 100 grand?
No, 200,000.
200,000. You expect the heating to be
kind of okay.
You really be expecting a mini bar and maybe some party.
It might well do. I just don't know how to access it with all of these buttons.
Yeah.
It can lift 11 tons.
Really?
Yeah, it's quite a lot. 1,280 Newton meters of torque.
That's impressive.
That is a lot, isn't it? I'm not a torque expert, but that is a huge amount.
Big number.
Yeah. So here we go. Here's another stop.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Right. We'll let these guys off. So let's talk about McLaren.
Yeah.
Because you were obviously thrown in with Williams, and yes, actually, Ham. Before we talk about McLaren, I must ask you about Silverstone in. Was it '95 when you were stuck in 7th?
Yes.
And then. Was there not a small problem with the radio?
Yeah, I had a really bizarre scenario where genuinely had a radio cross frequency, and I had a taxi company in Toaster come online giving it, this pick up and Toaster at 3:30 or whatever the time was, and so that definitely goes down as the most bizarre radio transmission that I've ever had. So nowadays they all have digital.
So I think someone would like to take a wee snap.
They're very friendly. You really love the sort of nothing's going to stop us having a good time spirit of the Brits.
It's great, isn't it?
Cold, wet, and
Someone's
muddy.
got a rug round.
Yeah.
I feel bad being so hot in here now. So yeah.
Do you know what that is?
Yeah. So that is a brake.
Like a exhaust brake, or
I don't know.
I think it's the exhaust brake.
Oh no, you've given me warning lights now.
Oh shit!
Stop pressing it.
Was that not on before?
No. That'll be alright. That'll be alright. Is everyone on?
Yeah.
Okay. Let us sit down. Okay. So how do we get that off?
Which one is it? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's right.
That looks like a handbrake or something.
Yeah, no, but there isn't no handbrake. It's all automatic. We're picking up speed again, so we're all right. Oh well.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. So it's McLaren.
Yeah.
Did the kind of reputation of McLaren even then precede itself in terms of what kind of a team it was, whether it was welcoming, and was that what you witnessed when you arrived?
I remember when I tested as part of the Autosport Young Driver of the Year award, I got to test it was the V12 Honda McLaren that Senna and Berger had driven at Silverstone. And I remember going, I don't remember the designation of the chassis, but I remember going down to McLaren to do the seat fitting, and they modified a pedal for me, and they really made a big effort just for a test. The level of professionalism, it wasn't just here's a young driver, just get him in, let him do his 20 laps and send him home. I also remember phoning my father and telling him that I'd test on Thursday or whatever day it was, and asking when he would come down. And he said, "Son, they're testing you, they're not testing me. Enjoy the day, don't crash, and call me afterwards." So I remember it was basically, I turned up from my family I was staying with in Milton Keynes. I remember Andy Hallbury from Autosport at that time was there, and yeah, I had a nice test in the rain at Silverstone. But they were incredibly professional, and I spent 9 years of my career at McLaren. It's a long time. It's the longest of any driver in that team. And from the exterior, they can seem a bit cold and clinical. And a lot of that was actually played to Ron's sort of presentation of the team. Everything had to be meticulous. But the reality is, mechanics, engineers, racing spirit of whether it's more Formula, whether it's Formula One, it's the same, and that is something which is very much about bringing people together and pushing the boundaries. So it was a warm team. It is a warm team.
Yeah.
It just doesn't maybe have that cuddly look from the outside.
Yeah. Do you still have a sort of sense of pain with the situation they're in at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think both for McLaren, the difficulties with Honda, and Williams as well, the difficulty that they sort of seem to have been in, not as competitive as they have been in the past. There are two teams that have played a huge part of my career, big names in the history of the sport, and I would love to see them really being more competitive. And also, of course, the side effect of McLaren struggling is that we've been deprived of really seeing Alonso's talents. He's an exceptional driver of his era, and he's sort of wasted 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't really get a huge amount better in testing, and Toro Rosso now with the Honda power unit put in kind of so many laps that they were up kind of in the terms of lap leaderboards.
Yeah, I know.
That must be quite a painful thing for McLaren to watch.
Yeah, Toro Rosso's relationship with Honda has been a lot smoother in one winter of testing than at any point during the entire relationship with McLaren. So it does beg the question how much of that was the improvement that they have made in the reliability, and how much is down to the fact that maybe installation was a bit tricky for bus stop. Well spotted. I'm not really doing a good job here.
Do you want to swap places? Do you want to drive?
I'm actually, now my bum has been beaten.
Oh yeah, there we go. Someone. Right. Because you literally just putting that in the building, getting back off. Yes, as well. So obviously you mentioned Ron there, but what was Frank like to work for? Because in terms of team principal, he is just an absolute racer, isn't he? Racer at heart.
He is, and I love that. He had never a problem if you made a mistake, if it was absolutely the quest for speed. If you made a mistake just from sloppiness or whatever, then of course he'd be not happy. But I remember once asking me to lift up my shirt in his office, which was not a Harvey Weinstein approach. It was, he wanted to see whether I had abs, and he was like, if you're serious about this, your body will be toned and ripped, and you won't be carrying excess, and you'll really work hard on your training. So these were all things to be taken seriously, and he just loves racing. He loves the racers, and he's built that spirit within the team. And I hope that, like McLaren, Williams are back towards the front of the grid, because they are legacy teams within the sport.
Are they going to do that with Stroll and Sorokin?
If you were doing your fantasy Grand Prix team right now, not being disrespectful to either Stroll or Sorokin, but right now there are other stronger possibilities if you were doing your fantasy team. But it's for them to prove that they are capable to lead, because you're basically looking for a guy with 1 year's experience and a guy with no experience to lead that team. Now, is that possible? Of course it is, if they're talented.
Yeah.
Senna would have done it, and then Alonso. But they don't know what they don't know, and there's arguably having that element of experience and the young rookie is a good balance in any team.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I just, like you, I really want Williams McLaren to be back up there.
Yeah.
So they're teams with history as well. So just going back to
Great feeling, by the way.
it's actually, you know what? If there is a speed limiter on this, so I'm limited to 5 miles an hour, so I can't actually do too much damage.
Yeah, well,
it's quite nice because we get to see a bit of racing as well.
No, it's fantastic. You know, much as this is definitely the strangest vehicle I've ever been in, you're taking me on a journey I'll never forget.
Well, that's all I could wish for. So then the move to Red Bull, and so it was Christian Horner was obviously there, but Adrian wasn't when you signed, was he?
No.
So how did Christian convince you that Red Bull was really going to be a serious entity? Because a drinks company in Formula One.
It wasn't a shoe-in, was it? But I'd been talking to Jaguar during that last year with McLaren, and Martin Brundle was my contract manager at the time, and I just had reservations about what they could offer. You want to ask the...
It's difficult.
Yeah, can you reach over and ask if they want to lift?
Does this side even open?
Yeah.
I can't even open this. Can you open that one?
Yeah. Oh, would you like a lift? Would you like a lift? Come on. Come on. That's sweet. The girl just said that's David Coulthard. Welcome aboard. More happy customers.
Yeah, no, well,
they're smiling.
Do you know what? I'd like to think we're going to get 5-star reviews from this.
Yeah, well, they may be not quite so happy when I go and ask them all for a £5.
Yeah, exactly. So how? So how did Christian convince you?
Right. So I was talking to Jaguar. Wasn't convinced it was really the structure owned by Ford, the way the management there had to go to Detroit and present reports, and just the whole thing was a bit corporate and not, I felt, sort of dynamic enough to really push through and be ultimately competitive. And so I decided that we weren't going to do that, and therefore I would have to look at other opportunities if I was going to continue racing. And then at the end of that season, it all came around. Dietrich bought the team for $1, I believe, took over the debt of the responsibilities of the employment of the staff. Christian, who had been running a GP2 team with Red Bull sponsorship, Helmut Marko, who's an advisor to Dietrich, put Christian in place as the team principal, and suddenly the conversation was back on. And there was an invitation to go and do a test. In between that period of the initial conversation to go on the test, there was a suggestion I'd signed a contract before, but I wanted to go and experience the car, experience the team, and just sort of sanity check everything before making a decision, and meet Dietrich and ultimately see what his vision was. So long story short, I was convinced that Dietrich understood the challenges of Formula One in terms of it's not just a case of throwing money, you have to have a number of elements. Rather strange man, standing down beside a fence. I don't think he's peeing.
No, he's not. Well, if he is, he's doing it without any hands.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. He's got one of those willies with little hands that can whip itself out. Dietrich had been an owner of Sauber for many years, so he knew of Formula One. His vision was to make it a winning Grand Prix team, and part of that was obviously the technical and engineering structure. Christian had the vision that we should talk to Adrian. I had the contacts. We had a behind the scenes. Camera down.
Sorry, there's more.
Camera down. Was it on the window?
Just on the window.
Yeah. And hi, Cameron. So we're multi-talented.
It's so hot in here. Everything's melting.
That's right. So he was able to. We were able to get Adrian to go out, meet Dietrich, go to see Red Bulls behind the scenes, and understand that this was a real serious commitment. And Adrian was like, "Look, this is serious," and I was like, "With the right technical leadership, you'll get the funding." And with the existing guys that were there, that were already good, there was a core of very good people within Jaguar. They had previously been Paul Stewart Racing, Stewart Grand Prix, and a little bit of tweaking and finessing. 4 years of middling results, and ultimately they went on to dominate for 4 years.
What's Adrian like to work with? Because he's kind of such a happy customers. That one quite likes it.
There you go. You've still got it.
What's it definitely does. It definitely does. Made your day.
Just I'm surprised anyone recognises me anymore.
What's Adrian like to work with? Because he's built some absolutely amazing cars in his time. But I think he's actually a very kind of, I hope this comes across right, but a very human engineer to work with.
Yeah,
and he's quite different from your average designer.
Well, he also goes out on track. He races, so he understands what understeer is to a driver, what oversteer is, what confidence is. And your driver just needs confidence in the car. So he's very good at, when things are not going well, there's a problem at every corner. There's a problem in entry, there's a problem in mid corner, there's a problem in exit. And Adrian will very calmly say, what's costing you the most time? And it's a simple question that focuses your mind on, well, it's entry to medium to corners. Is it okay?
Right.
We're going to fix that. Because if you don't break it down to bite-sized chunks of where you can find opportunity and where you can fix things, then I think you're okay here.
All right.
Yeah. It is quite tight though, isn't it? But
yeah. Well, I think it's probably all right in a normal size track.
Yeah.
We've actually got. Do you know what we are right now? Is we are a Trilly train, and we have one tractor behind us and another one. I think quite short.
Yeah. But are we flat out?
Well, I am, because I've been limited to 5 miles an hour.
So they're going faster.
Yeah.
So
well,
maybe what we do, we are a Trilly train, but what we should maybe do at the next available.
That's where I'm going, Edward. How do we get up there? It's a touch screen, but it's not touching.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
No idea.
So he can, but with his racing background, he can dissect things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Adrian's, he's great. Of course, like anyone, things are going well. He can, an Adrian tantrum moment is just pencil on the clipboard. That's it. There's no slapping on the desk or sort of booming voice. The great Patrick Head, fantastic engineer. But if he wasn't happy, everyone in the paddock could hear. So he's very measured, and I've been very lucky to work with Adrian at Williams, McLaren, and Red Bull. So I tip my cap to him.
What was Patrick like to work for? Because I seem to remember reading a quote of yours saying that Patrick would pull you aside and said, "Now, David, don't tell anyone."
Yeah, and he'd boom it out. He never said this to me, but I was told the story that it was Heinz Harald Frentzen, when he was there with Jacques Villeneuve, he apparently said to him, "Whatever you're doing, just do it better." Which is a brilliant piece of advice. Just do it better. So, Patrick, passionate, old school designer, one of the great designers of when I say old school, I'm not being disrespectful in terms of wasn't able to move into the modern era, but what I mean is he sort of transcends a period from before I was in Formula One through to his sort of retirement from full-time duties, but intrinsic part of the history of the sport at Williams.
Yeah. Now, if you think back to sort of all the cars you've driven, is the one that still stands out and you think, I felt I could kind of do anything with that car?
Yeah, the 95 Williams I thought was a great car. I remember Jock Clear, who's now at Ferrari, he was my race engineer, and he used to qualify on Friday and Saturday back in those days. They stopped it because if it rained on Saturday no one went out, with the Friday times obviously maybe faster, but I think that's a mistake actually from a feeling of entertainment. They can combine Friday, Saturday qualifying because it gives purpose to Friday. Right now, watching a Friday, in a television role, the teams are just doing what they want. There's no real feedback to the fans of knowing that they have achieved the quickest time that they could on that particular day. But what do I know? So I think that 95 car, I remember being on pole both Friday and Saturday in Monza, and it was so perfectly balanced, and as the track evolves, you of course that balance changes, and we're clear there. Yeah. It is quite techy actually, isn't it? Like Jock Clear was adjusting the ride height by like 0.5 millimeter to change the aerodynamic platform of the car, and pole both days. Unfortunately, spun on the parade lap going to the grid, and didn't make the proper start, just trying to keep my tyres up, just an inexperienced error, overconfidence. they stopped the race because of an incident at the first and second chicane, so I got to do the restart in the spare car.
Yeah.
Led from the start, pulling away, and on lap 13 the front wheel bearing seized and it spun me off the track, and that car had been used in Spa in the warm-up in the wet, in the water, and got into the wheel bearings. So it just wasn't meant to be. So there's a few wins that got away through silly things, some my mistakes, sometimes just mechanical issues, which is disappointing, but that is part of racing.
Do you look back with any regrets in terms of moves on the movements you didn't make, or?
Well, the Williams to McLaren thing was too early. I should have stuck with Williams, and that would have given me another couple of years of World Championship car. But it meant 96 was a little bit dry. 97 I got a couple of wins, and then we get into that dominant period, 98, 99. But Mika was on form and was able to extract more from the car than I was, and therefore I've been part of a World Championship constructors team.
Yeah.
But I've never been a world champion, so I'm not really one for regret, because there's just no gain in having regret from a sporting career. You do the best you can if you feel you've given everything, and you haven't made a mistake through lack of interest or lack of application. And that was it. That was what you were meant to deliver. Just because you try really hard doesn't mean you've got the same opportunity or the same talent.
That's absolutely working out for you.
And this seat is now
just about done with it.
It's almost inserted. Yeah, I might need a medical practitioner to be able to remove this.
We'll have a doctor on site.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now, one driver I really want to talk about, Schumacher. You had your ups and downs, racing downs.
Yeah, we had a few run-ins, absolutely.
And I remember one comment that I think he made to you when you asked him, after you had that smash at Spa, you sat down to talk about it, and you asked him, Michael, have you ever been wrong? And he replied, not that I know of.
Indeed, and that is a true conversation. We had that conversation in Ben Eccleston's bus in Monza, and it was to sort of try and clear the air after the test in Monza the week after the Belgian Grand Prix. It was quite, the Italians were quite emotionally charged. They felt that I slowed down deliberately until a brake test in Magny, which was not the case. You can't see anyone who's racing, you can't see in the mirrors. I knew he was behind me, I knew he was lapping me, I knew I had to let him through because I'd been told on the radio. I didn't know he wouldn't see me any more than he would know I couldn't see him. No, we're good to go. People have done the full tour actually.
Yeah, all them.
So, but you're right, Michael, I exasperated. I said to him, surely when you're at home with your wife, you must be wrong occasionally. He went, no. And he had that absolute commitment. And I remember Mika, and this may be an insight to the commitment of a world champion driver. After the 98 Melbourne event, where I had to move over and let him win the race, there was a discussion, another race, following year about an agreement. And I remember saying to Mika, well, you can trust me, based on what I'd stuck to the agreement in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And he went, I don't trust anyone. And I was like, surely you trust your manager? And he went, no. I said, Mika, you trust your wife? And he went, I don't trust anyone. And I was exasperated because a simple boy from a village in Scotland, trust is an important part of going about your business. But maybe they were telling me that for effect. Maybe they were telling me it because they truly believed it.
Amazing.
But I've remembered it.
But you and Mika used to fly back to Monaco on separate jets, didn't you?
Yeah,
from the same circuit.
I know, it was silly. It was silly, but that's the competitive thing. Mika and I are buddies today. We see each other socially and we hang out, we have good fun together. We never did that when we were teammates because you need to beat each other. He was very good at being distant, which is not actually the real Mika. But he was very economical with the media. He wouldn't say too much because then you'd have to explain. So he was good at just saying the minimum that was necessary.
Right, this is the final stop for him. We're being overtaken.
We're definitely
being. We're going to get an angry look. Yeah, are we? Yeah, okay. There we go. What did that mean?
I have no idea. He pointed at it.
Yeah, and said, did you say leave it here? I think we can go out onto the road. We need to work out how on earth we can move this, aren't we?
Yeah.
How does this work? Okay, well, onwards. onwards, shall we?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So
Right.
are we heading back to?
Yeah, so we go out here,
Station?
then we go back to gate 13, I think. So we should briefly mention DTM. You still had the racing bug, didn't you?
Yeah, I'd always gone to the odd DTM race through my relationship with Norbert Haug and Mercedes.
Yeah.
And let me just see what we have to do.
Yeah, back to 13.
Okay.
Do you know what? He's much more friendly now he knows you're in there.
Is he a bit grumpy before?
He is a bit, yeah.
Health and safety.
Never takes a day off.
Look at this little piece of fabric around my waist.
This will save us.
This is going to change everything. You know, in my plane crash, this little seatbelt is the reason why I ended up with broken ribs.
Really?
Because in the crash it rolled up and did that. Whereas if I hadn't been doing... Hello.
Made their weekend.
Yeah, there you go. We're getting recognition here.
So yeah, because the plane crash. Well, we'll come back to DTM in a second, but the plane crash. You didn't. Am I right to think you didn't think you'd live to an old age?
No, I'd always kind of thought that I wouldn't make it past 30, and that didn't scare me, but it just seemed that if you're racing and you're
God, I nearly crashed it.
you should
Sorry.
go walking in front of a big tractor, shouldn't you?
Right, sorry, carry on.
I think Kate in there.
Yeah, he's I think he's probably absolutely freezing.
Oh, do we go out?
Here we go out onto the road
Oh, okay.
at 5 miles an hour.
That's going to upset me.
So we literally do 200 feet. 200 feet.
So do you think if you switch it off and switch it back on again, it will go off the limiter? Is it a power off or something?
I don't know. Oh, your data's being saved. Okay. No, we did start, David. What have you done?
Okay. No, it's done now. No, I think you have to leave it a moment to sort of fire up. You know, it's right. So wait until.
Yeah, wait till
Right now you turn the key. It should start.
your data's being saved. Oh, I'll tell you what. No. I know why. There we go.
Very good.
You did tell me about that. That very kindly. Right. Okay.
It's all full
Right.
automatic.
Yeah.
I think now it will do more than 5 miles an hour.
Do you think?
Well, we're going to find out.
Yeah.
Have you done much sort of tractor and trailer driving, or?
Define some.
Well, have you ever done it before?
Yeah, once.
Yeah.
Oh. No. Once or twice.
I think you just pop your nose out and
Yeah,
you will
I think-
stop. Obviously, maybe they will.
I don't think they will.
Okay, you're clear right.
Yeah, okay.
Clear right, and you can keep it tight left because there's nothing on your inside. So.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're still into that good old 5 miles an hour, aren't we? God damn it.
Brutal.
My foot is welded to the floor. So, yes, weirdly you didn't seem to think that you were going to live very long.
Yeah, but
An odd kind of...
yeah, but when you're young as well, that doesn't sort of scare you. Now I'm 47, the thought of not living much longer is obviously not particularly exciting, but so when I was having the plane crash, there was a moment in that process where I was like, oh, I'm 30, this is it. The fact that I came out the other side was a bit of a revelation, and it was a wake-up call because I was kind of in that a few years of Formula One. You know, you're a young man, where you've gone from being told what to do to then people saying, "Would you mind? Terribly please, would you do this?" Because you know what I've experienced is that people don't want you to change, but if you don't change in life, you're not evolving. We all change through life. What I think they mean is they don't want you to lose your approachability or your manners or that sort of thing. But when you're certain suddenly you're a Grand Prix driver and a lot of people are asking you to do a lot of things, there is a point where you can't say yes to everybody. So for some that can be perceived as being, oh, he's changed. He used to always say yes. Now he's going, I'm sorry, I'm not available to do it. How far are we going along this road? 5 miles an hour.
About an hour? No, so where that sign, there's the roundabout sign is, that's where we turn left, and then we're done.
Thank goodness for that, because I'm just conscious we've got
a
huge queue of cars behind us.
I can't get us off the bloody speed limiter. Oh dear. Anyway.
There must be something.
Well, I see he was using it earlier.
If you push back,
sorry, what?
Hold on. No push back in a pervy way. You see the back at the bottom? I don't want to push it in case it goes wrong. You can push it though.
Rather frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, if you push mode auto, does that change? Diagnostics, run, performance, calibration.
Performance? Bloody hell. I mean...
Who...
So what I think is that you said I can just limit it, then all your throttle, it's quite easy to keep the throttle in the right place, because there's lots of travel for not a lot of speed difference. But
design flaw.
Turns out. Oh, okay. I guess we're stopping. So DTM, yeah, you obviously after F1, you were still competitive. You still wanted to do more. Did you enjoy your time with DTM?
Yeah, I did. I enjoyed watching the cars, and I said to Norbert, could I try a test? I stopped in 2009, went from racing in my last race in Brazil to standing in the Melbourne paddock working for the BBC. And Martin Brundle had said to me that he remembers the first time he was there commentating, the car started and he thought I should be in the car. And I was curious to know whether I would want to be in the car, and it never crossed my mind.
Really?
I'd mentally moved on. So in 2009 it wasn't really part of my, I didn't think I'd race again. And then I got curious to do a test in DTM and enjoyed the test and no pressure. And I was given an opportunity to go and drive. And I thought, why not? Why not? And I was a pretty busy boy. For 3 years I did all the Grand Prix as a commentator and all the DTM. So I was doing 32 weekends a year at racetracks, on top of having started Whisper Films with a young son, back and forward to Monaco. So it was a fairly busy period of my life, but commitment and work ethic and getting on with it has always been a part of what I've done. So it was not unusual for me to be busy.
Yeah. So do you, obviously you're racing this weekend. Do you miss racing other than that?
I don't miss racing, but I did race the Champions again this year, and that was fun.
Didn't you win Race of Champions?
Yeah, I did.
David, you're too modest.
Yeah,
too modest.
For the second time. I don't know.
Two-time winner.
Enjoyed that, and of course when I was out on track learning the gullwing, I was watching the other cars and I could see opportunity and wasn't able to exploit them because I didn't really know the car well enough to do that. But I do enjoy racing, but to do it well takes commitment, and that means time. And I'm already pretty busy with everything I'm doing. Our son is 9, he's got a kart. On the weekends that I do have free, I take him to the kart track, and he's enjoying that, and I'm enjoying that experience. So you just can't do everything. I can't be greedy. It'd be very easy for me to go, no, I'm just going to find a racing formula which gives me the little adrenaline boost, but I'm absolutely fine just getting the odd opportunity.
Yeah. Well, David, thank you so much for taking part in the weirdest
Just finish, the camera falls off. That's cue for us to
stop this nonsense.
But no, thank you for taking me, not quite on the ride of my life, but it was very pleasurable.
David, thank you
I'm
so
going to
much.
be walking like John Wayne. The camera goes again.
Oh,
well done.
Amazing. David, thank you. That's absolutely classic.